This episode is brought to you by the Thrive Tribe. Check it out at chasingbrighter.com/Thrive Tribe. Welcome to Superwomen Diaries, where each week we share personal stories and open up about our journeys. At Chasing Brighter, we know that being a woman today is complicated. We want to get vulnerable. We know that vulnerability is where real connection happens. Get ready to dive deep and connect as we reveal the real and raw moments behind the scenes of our lives. Hey, Kelly, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Jessica. How are you?
I'm good. I'm halfway through my crazy collegiate travel with my eldest.
Oh, yeah.
So we went to Boston and then we went to Philadelphia, and our Philadelphia trip was so wonderful. Gabby just absolutely loved the school. It was her vibe. It was just, she loved it so much. And I know I had called you, like, my husband and I lived in Philadelphia for 4 years. And when we got to the end of our journey in Philadelphia, I didn't want to leave. But we had been planning kind of the whole time we were there that we would be moving out to the West Coast because I really wanted to live in San Diego. I spent a summer there volunteering in a homeless shelter, and we had talked about wanting to go where the weather was warmer, but I had made so many connections and had a
Yeah, you
great
guys had a
job.
lot of friends,
Mhm, mhm.
that you both, like, you both were friends with the couples and things. You had a great
Yeah.
a great crew.
Mhm. And so just going back there, and so, maybe that the school is outside Philadelphia. I don't know Boston that well. I mean, when I went to Boston before, I was really young. We went to go see one of my roommate's sisters at Boston College, and I don't know, I drank my way through Boston, so I don't remember, but I remember the IHOP at Boston. So I don't know all of the areas in Boston, and it also was, like, kind of raining when we were there. But in Philadelphia, I lived in Center City, and Philadelphia is incredibly walkable. The blocks are really kind of short. You can walk, from First Street to 19th Street and, walk all across
Mhm.
Center City. And so being able to, like, show her where our apartment was, show her the places we
Mm.
lived, and also knowing the history of Philadelphia, "Oh, this is where Betsy Ross lived. This is where they signed the Declaration of Independence. This is the Liberty Bell." Like, really cool, amazing
Yeah.
things in our
Mhm.
history. And also the city of brotherly love. It's a very, like, loving city and inclusive city, and it's very
Yes.
evident. The inclusivity is very evident
Very
there.
diverse, right?
Mhm. And, the tour that we got in Philadelphia, the student that gave the tour actually does admissions tours, but when we had the tour in Boston, it was kind of like, "Oh, we're a really good small school. We're really smart. This is the business building. We're number whatever in business. We have all these great things. This is the psychology building, whatever." But this was like the one outside Philadelphia was like, "We have what's called Screw Your Roommates." Kelly, remember SYRs?
Mhm, they have them
They
too?
have SYRs. I
School is, like, sort of, it's very highly reputable. That's my
Yes, there's a lot of trees and greenery around the school. And so that was a great trip. And we have two
as
more.
As Gabby's gone through these, is she getting increasingly excited about going to college? Like, does she see how? Because I've been trying to talk to Wes about, he doesn't understand college, obviously.
Mhm.
And I know he's just a freshman, but, like, we grew up in a world where our parents were like, "You're going to college." It wasn't, like,
Mhm.
forced upon us. It seemed
It's
like a
just the narrative
privilege
of
in
what
that,
you
like, they
do.
were proud of the fact that they went to college, and so they expected us to see that it was a privilege and do it as well. So it
Mhm.
didn't seem like it was like a chore. But anyway, I was telling Wes how, like, I made a comment to him about, the one thing that's really great about college is that your friends, you're with them all the time. You'll find a group of friends and you will eat, sleep, go out, do all the things with your buddies because he doesn't have a crew right now
Right.
in high school.
Mhm.
And so I was just telling him how college really was that for me, where you had these people. It was so awesome because you never had to worry about what you were gonna do with who or where you were gonna go with who because, like, you had your people and, like, those are just your
Mhm.
people, like, right? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That was one
Yeah.
thing that I loved about college.
It took me a while to find my people in
Me too.
college.
It took me
Um,
a year.
yeah, and I
to do that.
even thinking of high school, for my eldest, our school did not have softball her freshman year, so she had to go to the school we were zoned for, so she had to kinda make all of these exceptions and change all of her classes, and so her freshman year, she wasn't at lunch at school 2nd semester, and she had a big falling out with someone who, you know,
Mhm.
wanted to ruin her life, and so her sophomore year, having to be at school with where we had softball now, she was able to make more friends, and then the people she's known for a few years, she's kind of created her own little group, and so I'd say her junior year, surprisingly, she's in dual enrollment, so she's taking majority of her classes at, our local community college, and surprisingly, she's getting closer to people even though they're not on campus, right? Because then it's like, "Oh, what classes did you take?" So we're all coordinating classes together, and then they're studying together, and it's helping them navigate things.
Mhm.
And so she's actually now really, I think, getting a close group of friends as a junior. But so
Well, and I wonder, do you think, well, first of all, we went to a 7 through 12. A,
Mhm.
B, very small class size, right? So maybe that's part of where our experience was a little different than what our kids are. I'm starting to wonder, like, because schools are so big and the way it works right now with school choice, a lot of kids aren't naturally paired in school with their friends because they're doing a lot of things. Like Beck in a lot of ways, his really like ride or dies are probably more his soccer team friends than
Yeah, I
class
mean,
friends. So, like,
I
does
don't
it
know, it's
evolve? But
interesting.
I guess what I'm wondering is with Wes, now that he's moved into high school, I assumed you move into high school, you meet some new friends, you quickly get to your ride or dies, and you spend 4 years with those same people. That's not Wes's experience, and I don't know, and other parents I'm talking to, I actually don't, there are some that are, but some that aren't, and so is it just take a longer, it's a whole new school, it's just gonna take them a
I think
while.
there's so many factors. I think
Yeah.
when I was talking to my daughter, I don't know how your eldest is. Just speaking of just only my eldest, we have these talks where I feel like everyone's so, like, judgy, and maybe because we didn't have a lot of options, but, like, my friends weren't perfect, and we didn't like all the same things, we didn't do everything together in high school, and I don't know, I'm
Yeah,
just like, am I
I
making
think
sense? Like, I'm super accepting. So if my friend in high school did or said something I didn't agree with, so, like, I was asking her about the friendship between these 2 people she knows, and I go, "Oh, I thought they're really good friends," and she was like, "Well, they didn't like the way that that person was really promiscuous, so they stopped being friends with them." And I'm like, "Really?" I don't know. I feel like that seems, like, judgy, and they're, like, ending friendships all the time, and maybe because we had no choice? Like, I didn't care if my friend was promiscuous. What does that have to do with me? Or am I making
well,
sense? Like,
I
I feel like they
did.
end
Well, I
friendships.
did in that those were the one, some of the promiscuity didn't end well for some of those folks, but or actually, I mean, what happened, and that changed the course of their lives, but I would say that I'm thinking part of this is I wasn't with my friends all the time. I was in sports, and sports was the time, and then that was it, right? Like,
Mhm.
sometimes you hung out as we got older and more independent, we probably hung out more outside of school, but in those lower years, probably, we didn't I don't remember really hanging out that much. So I think part of that too is just, like, the independence of just general maturity, right? Where kids maybe aren't always hanging out when they're 14, 15, but as they get older, it's just part of
Well, and I know we've talked about this before, but I think when you have a phone and a tablet and a computer and a TV and all these major things, I just think people aren't working as hard to maintain connections because they do have so much to do. You and I live 10 or 15 minutes outside of town. So when we went home, I've already talked about this before, we didn't have cable a lot of times. Like nothing reached us. We couldn't get pizza delivery. Like we would have been isolated. But if you made plans with your friends, went to your friend's house, then you could that's different and something more to do. So I do think that the effort that kids may or may not be giving to things now because they have entertainment at their fingertips all the time. Does that
I
make
think
sense?
that's a good point. Well, and I feel like that translates just into just a slower evolution and a slower, like, social maturity, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like, if I think even about, like, dating or all those things, like, I just feel like they're happening slower
Yeah, yeah.
because
Well, and I think
because of all these
too,
other things.
so when you talk about, my eldest and what they think about college, and it's like that's one of the reasons she's very excited about playing a collegiate sport because you have built-in friends. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we talk like
Yes,
she goes to these
100%.
camps and within 2 hours she's got a new friend. They talk all the time, they exchange their socials and there's a new connection that you have. And so there is something about having the same experience at the same time that builds deep bonds. And the other thing that we have looked at when we are looking at colleges is the rate of students living on campus.
Yeah, yeah,
So the
that's
school that we
important.
just went at was like 80 or 90%.
Yeah.
That's the school
And the
that we went
previous
to.
one was a mix then? Is it more of
I
a
don't
mix?
remember. That's what I'm saying. We
Oh.
didn't I gotta do more research. Most of the schools that we've looked
Now I
at
did
do have
ask
a
a
high
colleague,
rate,
I
but
who I work with, by the way, about the place you guys
mhm.
went. He was like, "Yeah, I toured there. I was gonna apply, but I didn't think I'd get in." So that's kinda his
Yeah.
view.
The acceptance rates of the schools that we've gone to are very, very low. But my child is smart and she's in the top 10% of her class, and so, it is what it is. But anyway, so but that's been she is excited, and it is interesting to see, like, that's why it's good to go visit, like, how long it takes to get there, how hard it is to get there, how the airports are, all of that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
just looking at the surrounding areas, and so
Did she even for you, do you get a clear vibe when you're on those campuses and you're in those tours? Like, you get a clear vibe of, like, what kind of culture those schools have? Because 'Cause it's been so long since I've
yeah, I mean, I felt like the first school that we looked at, I kind of knew it's very much like the school that you and I went to for undergrad, and so I don't know, that's not gonna be my kid's vibe right now, and I the school that we went to the second time, I just wanna say, everything we read about the school, if this makes sense, it was my daughter. I just am like, "That is her vibe, that is her vibe, that is her vibe." So I was so excited to see that school because that was my instinct. Does that mean that the other school she'd hate and not like, no, but I'm just saying, like, what they wrote about it is so the wheelhouse of my child,
Okay.
and then the way that they handled the camp and everything was very different, and so they rotated players there, and so they actually hosted a big lunch where they brought food in, so she sat and talked to players and asked what their majors were, and they all sat and talked. Then she had a second group of players that came, and when they did the tour, they interspersed players throughout the long tour, so there were other players talking and giving you can't hear the front person, so the back had another person giving the tour, and that just wasn't the same, and so just the way that it was run and everything was very different. And I think too, like, then that's the vibe of the team as well, and so we're looking at what team is she gonna mesh with the most, and so I think
Yes.
all of
Yeah,
these,
that's an
but we're
important
keeping
part.
our mind really open and we're just gathering information, but, it does get, I think she's very excited, but then it's very scary. It's really, it's really far away, but she was not bothered by the cold at all, and she
Good.
just wore leggings under her jeans and had a fleece on, and she was like, "Mom, this doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me." She enjoyed it, so my challenge for myself is not to bring my computer the next few trips, to get my work done before and not do any work because I'm a little bit of a workaholic. I'm working on being at rest.
Mhm.
So that's my challenge to myself.
Where are the next 2 places you're going?
So we're actually going to 3 places.
Okay.
So we're going to go up to Northern New York, the Syracuse area.
Okay.
And then we are going to go to another school outside Philadelphia. Camps were on a Sunday, but another school invited her to an official visit the Thursday before. So we're going to go to Kentucky Thursday through Saturday, and then Philadelphia Saturday to a Monday.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Philadelphia is I think it's like one of the highest concentrations of colleges per capita when I had lived
I'm
there.
I mean,
A lot of
Boston and Philly
schools,
both,
and so
I
do
would say were
Boston. Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of schools up there. So, yeah, no, I'm excited about the Kentucky one. I'm excited to kind of check, just like the rolling hills and all that stuff. Our flights have been great, and
Good.
there've been a
Good.
couple talking about, like, human kindness and compassion, there's been, some angry people and crazy stuff happening on some of the flights and stuff, and you're just like, "Oh," you know people get a little crazy,
People, yeah,
um,
it's
and
just
I'm like I'm surprised, like, just people coughing on planes and stuff, and so I do have my N95 mask, and so sometimes I'm super rigid about wearing it, and sometimes I'm not, and I'm just like this guy sat by us, and they were like, "This is an empty plane, you can take anything you want," and we had a connecting flight, so we sat in the 2nd row, and this guy sat right beside me, and I'm just like, "This is not a full flight, like, go away," and he was
yeah.
coughing into his elbow
Uh,
into me, and was, like, coughing. I put my N95 mask in, and I was like, "Dude," and it was kinda like a bigger dude, and I was like, "Why are you sitting here?" So finally, the flight attendant was like they kept saying, "Oh, we need people to move the back. We need people to move the back." And so finally, the flight attendant went to the guy and he's like, "There's an entire row right there. So once we get in there, you can move." Like, because this guy would not move, and he like blocked Gabby and I in, and we were like, "Should we move our stuff and
just
go in the
so
back?"
not self-aware
But it was
too. That's the
also
big
that
part I
he was
noticed.
like one a bigger dude, and number two was like coughing. And so it was like, oh. So anyway, otherwise,
No, I'm super nervous
travels.
about the coughing thing. But in the city here,
Yeah,
people usually are relatively courteous, and we were in a lobby this week at the doctor's office, Wes and I, and the person was, like, coughing almost nonstop with a mask on. It still made me a little twitchy, and
yeah,
then Wes was, like, taking the bus this past week or whatever, he's like, "Mom, somebody got on there coughing the whole time, but they had a mask on." So it's like it's just I appreciate the consideration of
yeah.
others in public
Right.
places by doing that. So, it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily make it that you're not gonna get sick, but try.
I don't know. My cold is never going away, so I'm blaming coughing man.
Well, get plenty of vitamin C to keep your
Vitamin
immunity
C.
up,
Yeah,
especially because, just being around different environments, different foods, different everything, like how your body's adjusting to that. So, make sure you do
yeah.
plenty of
I
self-care,
am. This
Jess.
last trip, I packed my greens and I have this prebiotic IgG thing that I drink. I brought all those drinks. I think we talked about it on another episode, the Only What You Need protein shake,
Yes.
OWYN. I brought the shakes with me, and so I was, like, drinking those, and then I'm trying to make a reel about it, but I recorded myself, and Gabby laughed at the entire reel, so I don't know if I'm gonna post it, but I'm still using the Future app, and I have my trainer, and she sent me, a Pilates-style workout, so I did that in the hotel room. We're walking a lot. I'm trying to minimally at least hit, my physical activity 30 minutes a
Yeah.
day.
Perfect.
Always drinking tons of water when traveling, and I always
Yes.
take vitamin C because the medical experts I know say with vitamin C, whatever your body doesn't need, you pee out. So, you can't overdose on vitamin C. I'm not giving you this medical advice, but this is what was given to me, and so anyways, I always take vitamin C year
Sounded very
round,
technical.
365.
So,
Yeah. But anyway,
more to
traveling has
come
been
on your
fun and
travels.
yeah, just keep you posted.
Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear our latest episodes as soon as they drop.
If you loved today's episode, share with a friend.
Join us each week as we bring you inspiring stories, expert interviews, and actionable tips to help you navigate the challenges and opportunities of midlife. From wellness to personal growth to connection and beyond, we've got you covered.
We are passionate about helping you live your brightest, most fulfilling life. Together, we'll explore new ways to thrive and grow, ensuring that your midlife journey is full of joy, purpose, and endless possibilities.
So, are you ready to chase brighter days ahead? Subscribe to Chasing Brighter now, and let's embark on this exciting journey together.
Find us on Instagram, Facebook at Chasing Brighter, or check out our blog at chasingbrighter.com and follow us. If you want to know more about Kelly and I, read our blogs, find more tips, tools, and resources, check that out at chasingbrighter.com. Thanks. Remember, your best life is just a listen away.